Inside the GM Studios halls, tabletop games where nightmares creep, in a realm where sanity is lost and weak. Welcome to the abyss, where dreams shatter. Inside the GM Studio, nothing else matters. Blood and chaos, the dark arts unfold, in the realm of role-playing, where legends are told.
Why, welcome back. We missed a week, but we are back here on Inside the GM Studio with a side question episode where we field questions from the internet. I am your host, David.
I'm Matt.
And for the uninitiated, gonna roll a die. Gonna get a question from the internet. Not one directed at us, but fuck it. We don't care. We're gonna answer whoever's question. I don't give a fuck. It's a free country, man. I can do whatever I want. It's America. All right. So this week I get an 8 on my old school D20.
All right. 8.
8.
This one comes from. Oh, hold on one second. Can you move your computer closer to you? I can hear my own voice.
Better?
Check.
Check.
There we go. Better.
All right.
With the title, if a player asks, how much HP does the monster have left, do you answer? I have played where I will never tell them a flat-out number of HP, but will try to describe its condition. Its arm has been severed, wobbling, barely felt the blow from your greatsword, etc. But I'm curious how others deal with this question. That's it. Sorry, I was about to go into a comment there, but no, that was the entire question.
This gets into a more mechanics-heavy approach or a more narrative-driven approach. Mm-hmm. So, I am full stop not in the category of telling players how much hit points a monster has left.
Yeah.
But there are some benefits to that. And the biggest one is transparency. The players know when they hit, they're doing damage and like they're whittling away. And so when the monster is dead, it's dead because you've established a benchmark. You've established a ticker tape that shows them exactly what it is happening. When I was a boy and I was GMing, I did tell the players, oh, you hit him, you do 6 points of damage, he has 46 hit points remaining. Mm-hmm. This tends to remove players from the immersion of the game, and because it kind of breaks the realism a little bit. And again, not that anyone is ever under the delusion that an RPG is real, but there's no need to accelerate that particular thing. And so any micro things that you can do to maintain that fantasy is probably good. But his instincts are on, which is that, like, if you're fighting an enemy, you're likely to be at least somewhat aware of how beleaguered, how beat up, how hurt they are. So I'm very much more in the camp of qualitative assessments. He looks pretty hurt. He's teetering on the edge. He's almost dead. Mm-hmm. Typically what I will do is I will give the players a threshold, like, that says they're below half their hit points. In 4th edition, this used to be called bloodied.
Yep. They recently brought it back as a main mechanic in the 2024 D&D rules. They brought it back.
Didn't know that, but yep. So technically players, like, if they're keeping track, they should know, okay, he's bloodied, which means we've done 46 points of damage, so he has like somewhere between 90 and 92 hit points or whatever, yep, like that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with even leaving that out. Like, just the problem with it is that most GMs are not wordsmiths. I mean, actually, I don't have a way of knowing whether most are or not. Mm-hmm. Most people aren't wordsmiths. So giving someone qualitative information that is specific enough to be on a continuum, but not enumerate it in a numbers value kind of way, can be a little bit mushy. It's like, oh, he's beleaguered. Is okay, but he's beleaguered. How much more hurt is beleaguered than fatigued? I don't know. I don't know,
Yeah.
right? So you'd have to be somebody that has like specific concrete language. And probably a better way to go about that would be to use visual information, right? To give the players some continuum of visual information, head hung, shoulders like down, maybe wounds oozing, breathing heavily, eyes bloodshot, head sweating, stuff like this. But it probably will be worth kind of going through like the different categories of this is what someone looks like when they're a quarter hit points down, when they're half hit points, when they're three quarters hit points down, when they're almost dead. But I can understand the reasoning for it. But if you're trying to maintain immersion, then the players shouldn't know exactly how many hit points a monster has left, because it opens the it opens the door for metagaming. It opens the door for power gaming. It opens the door for whatever, and it also kind of neuters a little bit of the mystique and um, fun of the game. But if you're describing in qualifiable terms how an enemy looks, that's perfectly reasonable and something that I'm a big fan of. And so, but recognize what the trade-offs are for that. I've never, beyond somebody that's like 13, 14 years old, I've never heard of a GM really describing exactly how many hit points a monster has left. Do you remember? Do you even remember the last time you did that, Matt?
Yes, and I remember what kind of changed it. It's when we were originally looking at, was it the D20 Star Wars that had wound points and, god damn it, what was it? There was the vitality points. There was vitality points in the other one. And they talked about it in the book, saying like, when you're running around and you're dodging blaster fire and you're doing this, or you're doing incredible flips over fucking swamplands and whatnot, this is your vitality points or whatever it was. That was just kind of like, until you're out of breath and you can barely move because you've exerted yourself, and now we're into your wound points. That's when you start bleeding. And I remember both you and I were talking about that, how fucking cool that idea was. And then 4th edition comes out and it had the bloodied mechanic, and we're like, this is brilliant. Because before that, I don't think either of us had it to be like, when you're at full hit points and you take damage, does that mean that the weapon actually hits you and does a physical wound to you?
Yeah.
And if it is, then holy shit, some of these things can take a lot of wounds, can take a lot of, sword slashes and a hammer blow to the ribs, and you're just fine with it for the next, 5 rounds. I remember when we did that Star Wars and you and I talked about that, I was like, I need to come up with a better descriptor for when I'm doing hit points, because I don't like that. I don't like to think of, oh, I stab you and I do this much damage, and then you're just going to keep going on like nothing happened.
Yeah. It's what the vitality points do is they go, okay, there is a difference between your energy to absorb being crushed by a lethal blow and the physical toll that you can take. One
Yes.
is static, right? Like you just have so much health physically.
Yep.
And the other is like a representation of how you manage to avoid getting hurt in a way that is fatal to you. And D&D compresses that into just raw hit points. And frankly, for a dragon that has 120 hit points or whatever it does, it probably is just that, like a sword slash is just like someone cutting you with a fucking nail file, right? Like it's not gonna, someone had to cut you like, dozens of times to like kill you with like a fucking nail file, right? And so for a dragon, it probably is just like each sword blow does hit it, and it's just a big fucking creature. But then you have a medium-sized like warrior that has the same amount of hit points. Surely he's not just absorbing mace blow after mace blow to the
Yeah.
ribs, right? He's in some way shirking off that and like dodging and parrying and rolling and using his armor to his advantage until he gets exhausted, and then a fatal blow comes in and kind of kills him.
Mm.
But it just flattens that, and so that's part of the nature of the mechanic. Um, so if you get kind of creative with your descriptions, but it does stand to reason that players, characters in the game would have some semblance of how hurt an enemy is, right? And so when you're using theater of the mind, this gets kind of muddy. You go like, okay, like, well, which one did I hit already? It's like, but you can see, it's like, well, that one is the one that I've been attacking, right? Players might want to strategize based on which enemies are hurt and how hurt they are, and that is perfectly within the narrative of how a battle would play out, because you wouldn't just go attacking enemies randomly. You might select one that's a little more hurt or have some idea of how hurt they are, because you wouldn't want it to be a surprise that like an enemy died. Like you're just like hacking away at him, hacking, and now he's dead. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. What a surprise. He's dead now. I didn't know that was even going to happen. So there should be some sort of meter that the players understand that the health is dwindling, but like enumerating it makes it too specific, too concrete, and pulls you out of the narrative. But like I said, the benefit of it is that it does have strong transparency so that the players know exactly how wounded an enemy is. The problem that I have with it is that when you tell player that they can meta game if you can tell players exactly how many hit points they have left, because they might not know how many hit points an enemy has.
Right.
Right? You hit him for 4 points of damage. Oh, he has 708 hit points remaining. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Let's get the fuck out of here, right?
We should rethink this right now.
Right. You just go like, okay, just barely grazed him, and they're like, wait, I just did maximum damage, and it barely hurt this guy.
Yeah.
He's formidable. Like, okay, like, but how formidable? Like, who knows, right? You don't. So those sort of things you want to avoid, because players can and will leverage them when expedient, and then they can also go, oh, okay, like I know this guy only over here only has 1 hit point left. So there's no reason for me to use my primary attack on him. I'll use my offhand attack because it does a minimum of 2 points of damage. And so I'll use my offhand attack on him to kill him so that I can maximize how much damage I use, the overall damage distribution, when frankly, that would probably be beyond the capabilities of a combatant in a fight, right? They would just kind of do. Occasionally, you're going to overkill an enemy, and occasionally, you're going to just scratch just the surface of what it is that the capabilities are. So, I don't
Yeah.
like it for that reason, but
We had a great example of that yesterday in our game when we were fighting King Groll, the big bad guy. The very first hit against him, Patrick hit him, did 20 points of damage to him, and even Dave was just like, "You said 20? Damn, that bloodies the hell out of him." So I
at
already
level
knew
3, yeah,
Yeah,
20
at
points of
level
damage
3.
at level 3 is a lot.
So to me, already knowing the rules, the mechanics of it, I was just like, oh, so he's well over half hit points that we just took away from him. And then Cody hit him for 17, somewhere around there. It wasn't exactly 20, but it was close. And I was just like, oh, this dude's dead. And I don't know if it was Cody or Patrick that was just like, do you think? And I was like, yeah. He just said, when Patrick hit him for 20, Dave was just like, you bloodied the hell out of this motherfucker. He is really hurt. It's like, if you did anywhere near 20, that's got to be death. So I thought that was a good way to do it.
Yeah, because maybe if he had known that he only had 8 hit points left, maybe he would have attacked another enemy and let someone that did a little less damage be the one to finish him off. But you frankly wouldn't. That's kind of the strategy of metagaming. Oh, I'm a striker. and this guy just whacked the shit out of this other guy, and I have a top end damage output of like somewhere between 20 and 24 points of damage, but I know he only has like 3 or 4 points of damage. I'll let Matt just use his minor like thing, his spell that does 1 to 8 damage, because even if he hits him at all, he'll kill him, and I could better be using my damage output toward this other enemy over here. But like that gets a little too metagame tactical on me, and when you enumerate hit points, that's what that does. But it does give players more confidence that you're being transparent with the enemy's hit point totals. It makes it so, because they know you can't fudge anything, right? And it does the same thing that when you roll in the open in front of the players, they know that like a hit is a hit and a miss is a miss, and that cuts both ways. It means that when you're rolling shitty, that they know that you're rolling shitty, but it also means when you're rolling fucking rocks, there's no punches to be pulled. You can't spare the players. I like a little bit of reserve to be able to kind of spare the players, even though I really don't as much. I like the option to be able to do it in odd circumstances, and also I just like the mystery and the mystique. I mean, even on Roll20 in our game, I use the GM role for the most part, and just kind of because I think it's just kind of like more like interesting and mysterious. It keeps you embedded in the narrative as opposed to the mechanics. And to me, because I'm a storyteller kind of type, I'm more interested in the narrative than the mechanics. But if you're more into the mechanics and you kind of like that transparency and your players dig it, then that's fine. But if you think they're querying you for some sort of metagame purposes, keep it mysterious. Let them know that they wouldn't know that, and that you want to kind of maintain that veneer. It could go either way. Most GMs I know are in the first category and not the second category.
Some of the comments here very entertaining. As the prettiest potato says, I will give them a simple "it looks blank." And if they want to know more, I asked if they would like to use their action to make a perception/insight/medicine check. And then it goes on, like Total War Wiser and a couple others here, to fill in the blank. It looks fucked up. It looks very fucked up. It looks extremely fucked up. At Death's Door is simply, it looks fucked. And then someone else, fucking whole fucking thing is basically fucked at this point, equals 2 HP left.
No, I think leveraging the insight mechanic or the medicine score is probably good, because characters more in tune with body language and motives, unspoken cues, and anatomy are going to be more keyed in to where an enemy is. I mean, there's a difference between, a beast is not going to be very particularly good at like deceiving you. But let's say you have like a basic bandit off the path versus maybe a very stoic knight who is like going to do their utmost to keep themselves composed right up until they have like 0 hit points left. Those can be some interesting dynamics, and leveraging medicine or insight passively. I don't know that I'd make a character make a check, but like passively, I might let them do that as a bonus action or a free action to kind of be like, well, I don't know. I mean, you can get, he looks pretty hurt, but if you want to get more of a concrete idea of how hurt he is, you could do an insight or a medicine check, and then you go like, okay, he's probably below quarter hit points, right?
Yeah.
He's below half hit points or something like that. That's perfectly reasonable. It's probably a bridge between the two ideas.
How do you feel about other games where it pretty much tells you right off the bat? Like, think of VTM or any of the World of Darkness games where your HP is just a track where you're, what is it, bruised, hurt, wounded, so on and so forth. And when you are actually
the incapacitated, yeah.
Right. And when we ever got into the far and few between combat encounters in the game, you would come out as the storyteller, saying, oh, you knocked him down, he's now bruised, or he's wounded now. And that told us how many hit points he had. Oh, well, I guess it could be different because with VTM in some of those World of Darkness games, there is self-healing as well as you never knew how well the armor actually was. So there is still some mystery to it.
Well, the difference between those games and other games is that everybody has a static amount of health.
Yeah.
Right. In VTM, everybody has 7 health levels. So even if I don't tell you he's bruised, he's wounded, he's injured, he's mauled, like you go, okay, I just did 4 health levels of damage, and he was healthy, and now he took 4 health levels of damage.
Yeah.
And so unless you could disclose that, you could kind of keep hidden how much he soaks, how much his armor absorbs, and that would keep the mystery. But it's different for systems that have static health for everybody, that your health doesn't scale with level, but in D&D and other RPGs it does. And so
yeah, you're right, that goes with Savage Worlds as well. You only have 3 hit points technically. You got 3 wounds and 2 oh fuck, I can't remember now. Either way, but yeah, when you tell them that, oh, you hit him so hard that he takes a wound, they know, oh sweet, well now he's got -1 to all of his rolls.
Yeah, and so the benefit to that again is clarity and transparency, but you probably should be communicating to players ahead of an enumerated hit point count exactly how challenging an enemy is. Like, your players shouldn't be gobsmacked to learn that an enemy has 100, 200, 300 hit points, whatever, right? Like, they shouldn't be, there should be other indicators other than you saying they have X amount of hit points as to how challenging they are. And so if you're relying on that, you're probably need to tinker with some of your other descriptors for certain things, because frankly, in a combat situation, somebody would be able to feel whether they were out of their depth from a particularly formidable foe. Wouldn't be waiting to like see if they can hit their armor class or how much damage they do to their total hit points to know whether this is someone that they can defeat or not, because that just doesn't make much sense.
I know that sometimes there are tables out there with players that they might not be able to figure it out. So I've done it before where they ask, can I do a medicine check or maybe a nature check if it's a beast, or, you know, an arcana check if it's some other form of critter. But they ask, you know, how many hit points does it have left? And if I don't give a more roundabout answer, like you would guess that they probably have around 40 hit points left, something like that. Not giving them a total number, but giving a roundabout area that they become happy. I've never had anybody that said, I need to know what the fuck it is. But how do you feel about that? About kind of giving a roundabout number?
Not a fan of concrete numbers. I'm fine with saying something like half, quarter, 3/4 hit points. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of like concrete numbers in a situation that likely is, because it solidifies too much metagaming. It's like, yeah, when you size up an enemy, you're not likely to be like, he has X, you're using the grammar of mechanics to describe what a character experiences. And that, to me, just kind of erodes the immersion of the game a little more than I'm comfortable with. But I get the benefit of it. I don't have a problem with it per se. It's just not something I'm comfortable doing, especially because once you open the door to it, players love specific and concrete things that they can measure and track. Going back to the main episode about the fact that they have the rules on their side, and so the rules, you need to maintain some opaque barrier between the world of the GM on this side of the screen and what's on the other side of the screen. And as long as you don't abuse that, I think it adds to the immersion of the game.
All right. Well, I think that might bring us to the end of this one, unless you got anything to end on there, David.
I do not.
All right. Well, then we'll just leave this one with a good night.
And good luck.